Well, hello. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jason Rivera from Core Inspection Services. Jason, how you doing, man?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
Doing well. Doing my best to shelter in place. How is your sheltering in place going for you? Before we get into the business, how's it going with like just all your fam and everything?
Yeah, so I mean, we're good. I don't know if you saw my post today, but Ryden fractured his elbow, sheltering in place on his scooter. And so I'm starting this drive that says skate, hashtag skate, not scooter, because
Yeah.
So we did the
Wait,
cast.
so how did that happen?
He just like fell over and landed on his elbow wrong. And we went 10 days ago, we went and they put it in a splint because it's kind of a small fracture. So I went and put it in a splint, and then today was 10 days after that, and so they decided to cast it for 3 weeks. So we're doing good, man. It's just crazy, crazy. My wife was already homeschooling my daughter, who is 9, and so this whole like transition into homeschooling, Ryden, who's 12, and then Maverick 3, right, is not homeschooling but doing a little bit. So it's crazy. The shelter in place for sure for my wife. She hasn't left the house in like 21 days. And because there's nothing for her to do, right? Like what she can do.
Yeah.
And I jump out of the house and do some work here and there, just trying to stay busy and try, stay positive and, try to help people when we can.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about, so for those that don't know, you're a home inspector, and we met a few years ago and have been kind of a team ever since. We've been teaming up with you. And I want to get into some details of kind of your home inspection process at the end. We can talk about that. But so since we, all went into a shelter in place for the state of California, and then about 2 weeks later, we were declared, like real estate was declared an essential service.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been adjustments and changes and all of that. So how has your business, walk me through a little bit about what happened when you guys went, to a shelter in place. What did that do to your business? And then what changes did you have to make? And then kind of give me an update as to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So we were watching it super close when it first started happening because, like most small businesses, I had 5 employees or have 5 employees, and just trying to make sure that I'm doing well for them at the same time as trying to be able to provide for our clients. So I kind of watched our decline. We were booking about maybe 25 inspections a day. And we went from that to like maybe 3 weeks ago, I think it was. It was a Friday. No, it was a Wednesday. And we booked like 3 inspections. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like we have to like stay ahead of this curve. So I laid off 3 of my employees, 2 of my inspectors and 1 of my inspector assistants. I laid off that day. And then my office manager went to part-time. And I just have myself and my, one of my inspectors still on full time right now. And it just like, it kind of happened fast. But again, I just wanted to make sure that I was like, they all have families. And so, we needed to make sure that like, hey, if this is, their payroll was that Friday. And so they would have like another 2 weeks of payroll that they would still get. And so I was like, man, we should try to make sure that we're paying attention to this and trying to help our clients. And there's a lot of programs that we're rolling out, like this payroll protection program and this small business loan and all this kind of stuff. But I honestly just didn't understand it all right out of the gate. So I was like, man, we're just gonna like hit the pause button and see what we do. So, and then that was a Wednesday 3 weeks ago. And then like by that Monday, the following Monday, the California Association of Realtors came out with that post that said no home inspections for 30 days. And this was before, so they were saying like pest companies were still considered essential, but home inspections weren't. And so that really honestly put like a pretty big pause on our business. We went from doing, 50 inspections a week to 3. This week, I think we have 6 on the books, maybe.
Wow.
So I was trying to make sure that we were like being proactive because of course, like right out of the gate, we already have like booties. We already wear those in every house. All of my trucks already have rubber gloves in them that I didn't have to like go out and purchase because we like to use those when we go into an attic. So we don't like get our handprints on attics. So we already had a lot of that stuff. We have masks because we wear them when we're in a crawl space. We were already like pretty fortunate that all of my trucks were already had all that stuff in there, basically. So we immediately went to like PPE, like wearing all of the protective equipment and trying to like protect our clients. But then at the same time, feeling like, man, I don't know how, if we should be going into these people's houses. I get that people need to buy them, and I think it's super important to get them. So the last week of February, I just put a pause on all inspections for 10 days. So we stopped taking any inspections at all for 10 days. And this Wednesday was the first day that we said we were going to start doing them again. And it's kind of a good timing because now we're technically considered essential, but we just need to, same as you guys, right? We just need to make sure that we're limiting our exposure and the exposure of other people. I feel so bad for these like sellers, right? Because they're opening up their house to us and they don't know where we've been. They don't know what we've talked or touched or who we've talked to or any of that stuff. So just really trying to focus on everybody. But at the same time, people need it, right? Like inspections are important, especially if you're buying a home. It's just important to know what's going on with it. So, yeah, it's been interesting for sure, to say the least.
Yeah, it's kind of it feels like with everybody, there's been this whirlwind kind of, when the virus first hit America, it felt like every day, things were like getting changed. And, and I remember watching, I was on Twitter and I remember seeing like something happening in the Utah Jazz versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it was like, everybody's leave. Like some dude came running on and was like, everybody off the court. And like all these crowd is like walking out and the players were like huddled and running off. And then it came out later that day that one of the Jazz players had, acquired coronavirus. And it felt like the world, for at least in my world that I view, it felt like after that day, I think that was March 11th, which feels like a lifetime ago. But It was like on that day was when, after that basketball shut down, like all of these big things really, like it was kind of that trickle effect where everything kind of started to shut down. Not because of that, but I think it was a big eye-opening thing, like, oh, wow, this is everywhere. We don't even know this yet. People weren't necessarily taking it seriously. And sometimes rightfully so. You didn't know. We didn't really know what was going on. This has never happened to us since the 1918. So there's not very many of us that were alive since the Spanish flu. But that's interesting that you. So I applaud you for making the tough determination to pause, because I think it does take people, especially before we were considered essential. It does take a lot of courage to be able to come out and say, hey, I understand that like some people still have to work and that we get it. Right now, we're not essential. So we have to make that tough determination to do it. And I commend you for that, because I think that it takes a lot of courage to be able to step forward and make that commitment, even though you're like, I want to take care. You feel that pressure and the weight, much like all these other owners. And so it really did feel like a no-win situation. And, gratefully, our business were able to come up and be essential and understand that, there are people that were laid off that are going, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to, make certain things happen that, that's one reason. There are people that are now getting divorced because it's like things that happen that cause that. So they need to sell. Their job changes that are occurring where people are moving and they're trying to utilize whatever resources they have. And there's also people that this has still been a dream for them. And, they've been lucky enough to keep their employment and they're able to purchase, and that, that does good work for our economy. That actually still is helping jobs. We're all employed based off of when somebody buys or sells a house. And so they're continuing to contribute to our economy and trying to keep it as afloat as possible. So, I had heard through the grapevine in our real estate circle, that you guys at one point had stopped doing any inspections that were occupied. Are you guys, now that you're restarting, are you guys going to inspect occupied homes since we're essential now?
Yeah, so we're back to inspecting occupied homes. We're just asking for like you guys know this, right? We're just asking for no one to be there. Just so we limit the exposure to the inspector, to the clients, and we are like fully checking in from the office with temperature in the morning and making sure that we're good to go out in the field and making any changes that we have to if we're not there. But yeah, we're now back to doing occupied homes.
Okay, great. And where do you see this kind of headed for your team? What's kind of your goals? I don't know. I guess as far as your outlook on things, what's your goals for all of this? How has your perspective kind of shifted over this last couple weeks?
Yeah, so honestly, it's just one of those things where I think you take the time to try to better yourself, right? To better the company, better who you are, better what you're doing, making sure that everything that we have to offer at Core is something that's worthwhile to our clients, right? And so I spent a bunch of time working on this pre-listing inspection program that we just rolled out, and I'm feeling really happy about it. I think it's a perfect time to have it because it allows a lot of virtual experience for buyers. Mm-hmm. And hopefully limits the amount of buyers that want to go into a pre-listed house right out of the gate, hopefully kind of weeds through like just the looky-loos, right? I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but in your industry, that you'll have people that'll call and say, I want to look at 37 houses today. And that's fine. You do that because that's your job. But at the same time, we all know that 30 of those are not houses that they're going to buy. And if they had some more material available up front to just kind of browse through. So we have this pre-listing inspection program we just launched that basically we'll put a sign writer out in front of the house that we inspect. And it's got a QR code on the sign writer, or you can text in a number. And it'll basically bring up the whole property profile, any videos that you've made, and the home inspection that they can purchase for $20. And if they decide that, hey, we've looked at this property profile, we feel like we like the layout of the house and all this kind of stuff without even going into it. Now I'm going to spend the $20, which is $20, and view this home inspection report. So I can now make an informed decision of like, yeah, this is a house that we really like. We know everything that's wrong with it. Let's go inside and check it out. So, so we've worked really hard on that over the last couple of weeks to make sure that, honestly, just like anything, right? Like I pride myself on being a company that's trying to be a step ahead and work really hard at providing the absolute best product that I can for my clients. Of course, there's times that we don't, right? Of course, there's times we fall short, but that's what we're working on right now. The inspectors that are at home, we're doing some training and some follow-up stuff for them. Right now, give them a few hours or whatever, just to try to make sure that hey, we're sharp and we're ready to come back into this thing. Because honestly, before this happened, it was March was the craziest month I've ever had in my business.
Wow.
Because we were the most inspections we've ever done in a month is 158 or something. And we were at 100 inspections on the books by the 10th. So it was crazy, so busy, so thankful, all the things, right? I bought a brand new truck for one of my guys. I totaled that the week of the COVID. So that's cool.
We're going to get back to that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I think that we have to take the time, and I know that that's why we're doing things like this, right? Because I know realtors like you care about being a better realtor for your clients, and we're the same way. We just want to make sure that we're providing the best thing that we can. So we've been working a lot on stuff to try to better the business and make sure that it's really good. And then, just doing some other things. I've been doing some construction. I haven't done construction in 7 years. And so when I kind of opened the gate telling people oh, I might bid that project, it's been crazy over here of people wanting.
Well, and you made the unfortunate mistake, and we're going to learn how everybody can follow you as well. But you made the mistake of having a wife that is a great photographer, and so every time she takes pictures of your house, which you custom built yourself, it really is on you though. So that, that not everybody's getting calls, but they see Jason Rivera. Now my question is, are you doing concrete countertops? Are you offering that as an option for your service?
Okay, so I had my first call for that yesterday. Someone reached out to me and wanted me to do them, and I'm still on the fence. I haven't made the full decision yet, but there's a possibility that the Rivera construction side of my business may be coming back into effect if this thing lasts much longer.
Yeah. So you might have to bring in the concrete to the indoors, which I know a couple other concrete buddies. And apparently that's a big no-no in the concrete world.
Yeah, I don't know. I never had a problem with it.
Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much. How can we get in contact with you? How can we learn more about the pre-inspection? I don't know if you've got some stuff. We can throw all the links in the YouTube video. I'll throw them all up there so people can contact it. But if you just want to kind of run through, best ways to get a hold of you.
Yeah. So the best ways to get a hold of us is either email, which is just Core Inspect 1, or Jason at Core Inspection Services, or admin at Core Inspection Services. We have a bunch of those. So any of those emails, or our website is also great because we have a lot of videos on there, which is just coreinspectionservices.com. Social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook, also just Core Inspection Services. And then that pre-listing inspection, it's partnered with a company called Inspected Houses. So if you go to inspectedhouses.com, it really explains it super well. And then if we have any realtors or whatever that want more information about it, I can send you guys a text number where you can basically see what the clients will receive when they send a text to that number.
Awesome. Okay. Well, dude, thank you so much. A couple last minute, few rapid fire questions. What's the best show you've seen on Netflix during shelter in place?
Oh, dude, it's not Netflix. Okay. I watched this movie called, I'm going to have to look it up. Let me look it up. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Sorry, I talk. It's called Contagion.
Oh, okay.
Dude, it's literally like what's happening right now. It's ridiculous. It's this thing that started in China and they made this movie in 2011. So
okay.
I don't know.
Contagion, unless maybe don't if you're one of those that gets too anxious.
I know, it is crazy. So I watched that.
Okay.
And then I haven't jumped on the Tiger King's world yet. I watched minutes of it, and it just wasn't really. I mainly watch TV with my kids, and so I don't have. We're like Dino Trucks and Frozen 2. So
okay, so the kids' recommendations are Dino Trucks, Frozen 2. And then podcasts. Have you listened to any new podcasts or any new music that you're like, I'm into this album or band or podcast?
Yeah, so a bunch of that stuff. Podcasts are a big part of my life. I listen to a bunch of them. How I Built This is a huge one. I listen to a bunch of podcasts about Supercross, because Supercross is like my sport. And then my wife and I have been listening to this one called, I'll have to get it back to you. I can't remember, but it's about real estate investing, which is also a big part of our world kind of. And so that one's really good. And then music, Elevation Worship just came out with this new album, and it has 2 songs that are like crazy. Carrie Job, Cody
One
Carnes.
of them, the Cody Carnes, Carrie Job one.
Yeah, The Blessing.
Yeah. Good dog.
It's so good. There's like this part in the like pre-bridge that it's like Carrie Job saying like she's just worshiping over like our families and your children, like may his presence go before you, your children and your children and their children and their children. It's just like so good. And then Graves into Gardens is on the same album, and that's a big part of my. I've just been listening to it over and over. So for those of you who don't know, I'm also a part-time worship pastor. And so,
he does has his own business that was at one point doing at least 110. We'll probably get back there, and then also is a contractor. So so he does music and plays that. But that was going to be my last question. You segued in. You've been home somewhat more, at least a little bit. Who's more at risk of getting murdered by your wife? Your kids or you?
My kids, for sure.
Kids. Okay. Is there one in particular that's at the highest risk?
Maverick, dude. Maverick is...
Again, you named him Maverick. So what did you expect to happen?
But so I'll typically be like mid like project, like getting some work done. Those like good hours between like 3 and 6 that are just like the fire out, like get some project stuff done. You've like got all your materials, you're ready to go, you're doing it. So I'll always get a call at like 4:45. It's like those hours for my wife between like dinner time, like if she's trying to wait for me for dinner, and I'm not home yet and I haven't like checked in and said this is what I'm doing, those are the worst hours. And Maverick is just losing his cookies and ready for dad to be home. So yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations on naming your son Maverick and experiencing what it means to have a Maverick for a son.
Yeah.
But Jason, thank you so much, man, for coming on and talking with me today. Would love to do this again and kind of continue to get some updates as we try to shelter in place, stay virtual as much as we can. And so hopefully adding a new element to what we do here. So appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.